you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Khalid. I'm coming from Spain, and I am a calligrapher. I started doing calligraphy like 17 years ago. I started by myself. By that time I was learning Arabic, and that led me to discover, the art of calligraphy, and I was very attracted to it, and I was very fascinated by the beauty of the letters, and the beauty of these calligraphic compositions, and I really wanted to find out more about it, and I really wanted to see what it was, how it worked, the calligraphy, and so one day I was just like, I need to try this and I need to see how it works. I picked up a bamboo pen, and then I started doing it. I was um, I was just basically copying pictures from the internet and from books. I was just, trying to figure out things, but I loved it. It was a lot of fun, and I started to spend more and more time. I started to spend a lot of time, a lot of energy in it, and I was loving it, but I had no idea of what I was doing. I was just trying to figure out things by myself, and I very quickly I realized that it was a very complex way of art, like the complexity of this art. It was something that I would never be able to learn by myself, and then I realized that I would need to have a teacher, who was able to teach me, and I was because I really wanted to go deeper into it and to discover and learn more about it. And so, at that time, my Arabic teachers, they were pushing me a lot. They were like, you're doing this very good. You should keep on going. You should learn it. And I was like, yes, I really would like to learn it, but I just don't know who can teach me that. Obviously, in Spain there was nobody, and so they started to help me and try and find someone back in their countries. One of them was from Syria, the other one was from Egypt. And I told them, listen, if I have to just go to Damascus, or I have to travel all the way to Cairo in order to find a teacher and be able to learn it, I will do it, because I had this deep call towards this art, and I was like, this is something that I really want to learn. And so they were trying to find someone. We unfortunately couldn't find anybody, because there's a lot of people who does calligraphy. Nowadays, if you go on Instagram or on Google, you type Arabic calligraphy, Islamic calligraphy, you will see many examples, many different examples. You will find many people who makes calligraphy, but there are not that many calligraphers, and it's very important to make the difference between someone who just makes calligraphy and someone who's a trained calligrapher, who's trained by a teacher, who has been trained by another teacher, who has been trained by another teacher. So calligraphers, when I say calligraphers, I refer to these trained calligraphers who belong to a silsila, to this chain of transmission of knowledge. These are the calligraphers who are able to pass down the knowledge and to teach. Okay, and it's very important that if you want to learn calligraphy, you want to learn from someone who has been trained, and not from someone who's just have artistic skills and just know the knowledge, and he know how to paint, or it's different. So they couldn't find nobody, but I never gave up. I would keep copying pictures and trying to find examples and models that I could copy. And one day I was in Google searching for images, and I found the website of a lady whose name is Nuria García. It's a Spanish lady. By that time, she was already a trained calligrapher, and she was Spanish. And I was shocked, because we spent a few months trying to find someone in Egypt, someone in Syria. We couldn't find nobody, but out of nowhere, this lady, she was Spanish like me, and reading her biography, you know, I saw that she learned in Istanbul with calligraphy, Turkish masters, and you know, and her work was very impressive. And you know, I emailed her, you know, asking for some help, some guidance. You know, I was like, listen, I'm very interested in this art. I've been doing this several months by myself, but I'm just stuck. You get to a point where you're not able to go any farther by yourself, and that was my situation. And I was asking for some guidance, and she was very, very kind to me. And after a few emails in both directions, she basically suggested me to go to Istanbul to learn with her own calligraphy masters. You know, why Istanbul? Is because nowadays Istanbul is the center of calligraphy, is where this tradition is still alive, and is the place where you can find the greatest calligraphers. And you know, the Turks have been taking care of this tradition for hundred of years. So the Turkish Ottoman Turkish school is a very powerful and very important school, and now everybody who wants to learn calligraphy just go to Istanbul and learn from the Turkish teachers. And so she suggested me to go there. She was like, I'm coming next month, so if you want, you can come with me, and I can introduce you to my teachers, and you can start learning from them, you know. And that was for me like a huge opening, you know. As you can imagine, I couldn't think about it twice. I told her, okay, let me know when you're coming. I will book my tickets tonight, and so I did. And next month we met there for the first time, and I got introduced to her teachers, and I started learning from them in a traditional way, you know, because this is how they keep the traditional teaching method. They keep using the same materials that calligraphers have been using for hundreds of years, and this is how I started. And at the beginning, I was going back and forth from Spain to Istanbul, but at some point, I just moved there in order to be closer to my teachers and to be able to spend more time there and learning and practicing. And after 6 years, I received my ijaza in calligraphy from my teachers. It happened in 2014, and ever since I've been working as a calligrapher. You want to say something? If you have any question, please do not hesitate. Yes, so we can.
You mentioned 6 years. 6 years full time.
Yes, 6 years full time. 6 years full time. This is an art that it takes many years to be learned, and you know, I would say that the learning in this art never ends. I feel like I'm still learning new things, you know, because I'm still working with my teachers. Every time that I work in a new calligraphy composition, I would show it to them, and there's always going to be a suggestion, a correction here or there, and there is always going to be something. But the training, it takes several years. It took 6 years for me. In calligraphy, you know when you start learning, but you don't know when you are going to finish the learning, because you know there is not a like these academic formats that says, okay, you start and it will take you 4 or 5 years. The first year you will cover from here to here. The second year you will cover from here to here. It doesn't work like that, you know. You know when you start, but every person is different, and every person needs a very different timing of learning things. So it took 6 years for me. There's people who make it in 4 or 5 years. There's also people who spend 12, 15 years with the training, you know. So it depends on every individual and how much practice and how you do, and you know, it's a very personal process, you know.
Another question. Do you need to be an artist or talented, or
No, not
anybody
at all.
can jump on it?
Everybody can jump on it. I mean, you don't need to have any specific skill. Other than this is what our teacher always would say. The only thing that you need in order to become a calligrapher is to have passion, is to have a huge level of passion for this art. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. It's very important.
I have question about the the Arabic writing. When I was small, I learned Arabic to how to write or something like that. But I saw like someone write Arabic so beautiful, but some is not. So is it something that we can fix, or because of the like, you know, when we write like the ABC English, for example,
Yes.
some people they write like it's very beautiful, but it's not. Is it something the same also?
Some people have beautiful handwriting. Some people
Yes,
doesn't. But this has nothing to do with handwriting. This is a totally different thing. This is the art of calligraphy. This is the art of writing. So it's totally different from handwriting. When you write whatever, like, you know, this is different. This is the art of writing beautifully, but using the traditional techniques and the traditional materials, and you know. Sisters, do you have any question? Please? No?
The other way around. Brothers are quiet.
All right. So, well, the first thing, when you find a teacher, when you find a calligraphy master, the first thing you have to do is to ask him if he would accept you as a student. So you don't go to Istanbul and you sign up at an academy, calligraphy academy. It doesn't exist. You don't apply for a course. You have to find a teacher, and you have to ask him if he would accept you as a student, and yes, normally they will always accept you. And then we all have this book, which was written by Sefki Efendi. He was one of the most prominent, if not the best, one of the best calligraphers, greatest, most remarkable calligraphers of all the time. And this is the curriculum that we have to go through in order to. This is the training. The all the learning is here. All the lessons are here. You know, in order to get to a level where you are supposed to be good enough that you can receive an ijaza, you have to go through all these learnings. Okay, this is the, as I said, the curriculum, and this curriculum has two parts, has two different parts. You first start learning the letters. Well, first of all, the very first line. This is what we call a line of calligraphy, and this is another line of calligraphy. Each one of these lines is one lesson, and they're very strict. So you will start with the first line, first lesson, and they would not allow you to pass to the next line until you're not able to write it, you know, respecting all the shapes, all the rules, all the proportions, you know, and they're very strict with the corrections. When it comes to the corrections, it's very there's an expression in Turkish that they use. They say one hair. This letter is good, but it's one hair too long. So you just go and repeat, or half a hair. You know, we move in between one hair and half a hair, and one hair is the fourth part of 1 millimeter. So this is for you to see how, so like if one letter is 1 millimeter longer than what it's supposed to be, it's quite bad. That's a big correction. So you have to fix it until it's in between one hair or half a hair that they may allow you to pass. The very first line is this beautiful dua that says Rabbi Yasir wala tu'asir, Rabbi Tamim bil khair. You know, it's oh Lord, make it easy and not difficult, and make something good comes out of it. I think it's a very beautiful way of starting, and it's a very difficult line to write. It's very tough to write this line. It's so complicated, especially at the very beginning when you're just a total beginner. You're starting with this, and there's a lot of information here, but this is the Turkish way, you know, of learning. You start learning something which is very complex, but at the same time you start learning a lot from the very beginning. And most of the strokes and shapes and movements that you're going to have to do in this line, you're going to be repeating them all over the curriculum. So from the very beginning you start learning a lot. And you in Istanbul, you visit your teacher once a week, and the rest of the week you're supposed to work by yourself at home. So the first day your teacher is going to write this in front of you and he will explain everything, you know. Basically what you have to learn here is not only the shapes and the forms of the letters, but also the proportions. In calligraphy, every single part of every letter, it has a very specific proportion, and this is what you have to incorporate, this is what you have to go through, and this is what you have to learn. So he will explain everything in this line, and then you're supposed to just go home and the rest of the week work and find out things by yourself. So after a few months, when you are, it takes months and sometimes it takes even 1 or a couple of years for people to complete this first line, you can start with the second lesson, which is the first line of the alphabet. You first start learning the letters, and then you start learning the connection, how to connect the letters, how to connect the ba with alif, ba with ba, then you have the jim, then you have the sin, you have all the possibilities, okay? And so when the letters are by themselves, they have a very specific shape and proportion, but when you connect them, these shapes and these proportions changes. So you have to learn all the different possibilities that you have, okay? And so it takes time, you know, this process, especially at the beginning. I would say the first couple of years, the process is very, very slow. It's very slow. You have the feeling that you're not making any progress. There is always a progress. Always there is a progress that happens, but the student at the very beginning is not able to see that progress. The eye is not trained to see the progress because the progress is very little. But the teachers can always see it, and you know, it takes time. It takes time, and something very important, which is it has to do with the adab between the student and the teacher. The student will never ask the teacher, "Excuse me, Ustad, we've been writing this line for 7 months and it's getting a little too much. Can we please move on to the next line? Can you please teach me new things?" You will never do that. And as well as you will never ask him, "Ustad, I've been learning for 8 years and it's been a little too much. When am I going to get my ijaza?" You don't do these kind of things. You don't ask this. You're in your teacher's hands, and you have to trust the teacher, and you have to trust the process. And no matter how long it takes you, but eventually you will make it. It's okay. You just have to commit. You just have to practice. You have to dedicate yourself, and eventually you will make it. You know. So the connections of the letters are the first part of the curriculum, and then when you finish connecting and learning all the connections and all the possibilities that you have, we write this line that says Tammatul Huruf bi'awni Allah al-Malik al-Rauf. I have completed the letters with the help of God. And then the second part of the curriculum, you start writing different sentences, but sentences which already has a meaning. So the second part becomes a little bit more inspiring because, you know, there is already, up until this point, you're just connecting letters. There is no meaning, there is nothing to be inspired by. But the second part is a little bit more, you know, you have hadiths, or you have the basmala, you have several lines that you have to go through. And also at this point of the learning, or at this point of the process, the learning is not that slow, you know, that here, you know, you've been training your hand for several years, you've been training your eye for several years, so you wouldn't spend months writing just one line. It would be just like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you move on quickly. And then when you finish the book, you're supposed to be in a level good enough that you can recite your ijaza. So one day, out of nowhere, your teacher is going to tell you, "Okay, I think that you're ready to get your ijaza, and I want you to write your own ijaza." So you write your own ijaza. You have to choose a calligraphy composition from your teacher, from one of your teachers, and you have to reproduce it. And then, you know, they will sign it, and they will certificate. that this person has completed the learning process. And what's important about the ijaza is that the ijaza allows you to, like, they give you the permission to start teaching the same way that you have learned. It's very important that the teaching thing, like half of what we do as calligraphers is to teach. It's very important to pass down the knowledge. Every calligrapher becomes a teacher, and that is very important in order to preserve the tradition. This tradition is part of our heritage as Muslims, and it's very important for us to preserve it. Okay, it's not anybody else's duty to preserve this tradition, but ours. So that's why every calligrapher is a teacher. Every calligrapher teaches and pass down the knowledge into others. It's very important, and that's what the ijaza is for. But also the ijaza allows the student to start creating his own calligraphy or her own calligraphy compositions. Up until the time that you get your ijaza, you are not supposed to write anything else other than the lessons that your teachers give you. So you cannot be learning how to connect the fa with the rest of the letters, and at the same time write Surah Al-Fatiha, or they wouldn't allow you to do that. And if you come one day to visit your teacher and you bring your homework, which is fa, alif, fa, ba, fa, jin, ta, 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 and at the same time you bring, I have also written this Surah Al-Fatiha, can you have a look at it? They wouldn't even look at it. They would say, no, wait. It would eventually happen, but not now. You're supposed to first learn everything, and then once you're done with the learning process, you can do whatever you want. The ijaza allows you to teach. It allows you to start creating your own calligraphic compositions, and it also allows you to sign your works. You're not allowed to put your name in anything that you write. Questions, please. Sisters. Yes. Hold on one second. Assalamu alaikum. Sorry? I got my ijaza in 2 scripts. We have 6 classic scripts, and I got my ijaza in the thuluth and nasr script. 2 different scripts. Yes, brother.
Oh.
Yes.
So I know that in China, there is like, I know in China there's like the Arabic calligraphy also, and I'm from Indonesia. In Indonesia, also famous. Is there any something like something different between country, like China? Because China has the Chinese character, right? I know they have the similar like the calligraphy, but in China's. And is there something different based on the country or
Yes,
the culture or something like that?
Yes, there are different scripts. But in the Ottoman Turkish school, which is the school that I belong to, there are 6 classic scripts, and these scripts are common basically in the entire world, in the Arab world, in Iran, in Indonesia, and Malaysia. And, these scripts are common for everybody because are the classic scripts that we have, and these are the classic scripts that we learn. Then yes, in China there are calligraphers who they mix Chinese styles with Arabic styles of calligraphy, and they do their own thing, but this is not considered to be a classic calligraphic script. That's something else. Do you understand what I say? Yes.
I have a question. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
So the classic scripts you mentioned, the where it's being employed, usually would that be in scriptures, or like you're reproducing surahs, or do they also form the basis for some of the more fancy ones that are shaped a certain way, look like a person, sometimes it looks like a ship or something? You've seen those kind of calligraphy as well. So I guess I'm just not familiar at all with like what all the different how the different styles look like as well to just kind of
Yes, there are
mental
styles
model.
that are used for different things. There's a style. Um, Certain styles used to write the Quran. Certain styles are used more to beautify and make calligraphic compositions that they use to beautify masjids or different buildings. And yes, there is different uses.
Alaikum.
So
Are we going to see some examples of
yes,
writing from there? Okay.
yes, inshallah.
I remember I went in Dubai, there's a mall there, and there's a Moroccan, I don't know if he's trained calligrapher, but every day he has a table and people line up for him. You know, he writes small surahs or small, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I would
yeah.
love to see some examples.
Inshallah.
I'm curious, how did you end up ending here? What triggered you getting interested in this? What were you doing before this?
All right. So before this, I was working at my dad's pharmacy, but it was super boring for me, and I couldn't really see myself doing that my entire life. But this is something that I just discovered. It just came to me. I don't need. I don't even know how it happened. I told you I was learning Arabic, and then that led me to. But I don't know how it happened. I mean, growing up, I didn't even. I wasn't born Muslim, so growing up, I didn't even know that becoming a calligrapher was a possibility in life. I didn't even know that. But then it was just a discovery. It was just discovering a whole new world that really fascinated me. And again, as I said at the beginning, I felt like a deep and very powerful call to learn it and to go in that direction. And so I did.
Before Islam or after Islam?
After that.
And how does a full-time calligrapher job look like? Like you said, I'm a full-time calligrapher now. What do you do?
So mainly I do commissioned pieces for exhibitions, for collectors, for private people, and then half of the job, as I said, is teaching. I also teach, and so I have a good group of students that I dedicate them a lot of time. I train them, and then I also travel around, and like now here, like I expose to different communities, so people can get exposed to what the art of calligraphy is, because there is a lot of people don't really understand what it is, and people know very little about it. But it's very important. It's, as I said, it's part of our heritage, and it's important to at least have a little bit of knowledge of how it's been transmitted through the centuries, how we learn, and how it's preserved, and how it's still happening. And there is just a few calligraphers nowadays in the entire world. If you put all of them together in one point, okay, you will say, okay, it's a lot of people. But if you look at it globally, there's just a few of us, So, yes.
You said you had ijaza and two.
Uh-huh.
Did you get to pick them? Did you choose the scripts that you
I did.
wanted?
Yeah, I did. Normally, there is an order that you follow. The first script is called Riqa. It's a very basic script because it has very short strokes. Most of the strokes are straight, so it's a very useful script to start with. Because it's very useful to get used to the column, to the ink, and to the directions, to the angles. And then you will start, once you've completed the Riqa script, you will start with Diwani. Then there is another one called Jali Diwani, which is the same but in big. Then you have Nastalik, and then you have Thuluth and Nasr, which are the two scripts that I choose I chose these two ones because these were the scripts that I really liked, and I really wanted to learn.
So the second one is easier once you've done the first one?
No, you learn both of them at the same time.
Ah.
You learn them at the same time. So if you look at this, here you have both scripts. This is called Thuluth, and this one is called nesih or nasr. And it's the same. You have to. The methodology is the same, but they're totally different. They're totally different. The shapes are different, the proportions are different, but you learn both of them at the same time. If you haven't completed both of them, you cannot get the ijaza. So the ijaza is in both scripts. Yes.
I'm sure you're aware some software today, some computer software can write in this style. What do you think of that? Do you think it's a good idea
No.
so that it is preserved, or it will never do a good job as a human?
Someone was telling me a couple of days ago, there's probably going to be 20 years, so in a few years, 20 years old kid, engineer that has developed a tool which is able to write calligraphy as well as, or as good as calligraphers do. But
Isn't that a way to preserve it as well? You said we are very few.
But what's the point? I mean, if we have millions of humans, why don't we humans take care of it? Why don't we humans preserve it? It's as I said, it's our duty. It's not any software's duty to preserve it. It's our duty. We preserve tajweed. We preserve, like most of the things in this tradition are preserved by us, right? Why don't we do the same with this art? I mean, for us calligraphers, and for me, it's very important to maintain, to keep the tradition the way it is. And we use the traditional materials, we use the traditional methodology to learn and to teach, and the traditional process of creating pieces. But we don't incorporate any, or at least I don't incorporate any digital tool, anything like that, you know. No questions? All right, let me show you some images. First of all, I want you to see this. This is okay. This is the silsila. This is the lineage. This is the chain of transmission. It goes back in the Ottoman Turkish school to 15th century in Istanbul. Okay, so there was a calligrapher named Sheikh Hamdullah. He was the best calligrapher at that time, and so the Sultan at that time, I believe he was Bayezid II or some of these sultans. He asked him to reunite the classic scripts and to give them the definitive proportions and shapes, and to start teaching them. So he was the one who originated the chain, the silsila. Here you have all the calligraphers. Can you see it? No? Is it better? Yeah, well, this is just so you can have an idea of you know, how is the lineage. These are not all the calligraphers, but the most prominent at the greatest Turkish calligraphers. Okay, and it goes down until today. Until this last person is Hassan Çelebi. His name is Hassan Çelebi, and he's one of our teachers. He's our main teacher. He's considered to be the most important calligrapher, the head of the calligraphers, because he is the last person in that chain. He's still alive, and so all the calligraphers that we have an ijaza nowadays, we all have gone through his teachings. So so this is a living lineage. The tradition is You see, it's still alive, and we belong to that silsila somehow, right? When you get the ijaza from someone who has got his ijaza and someone who belongs to this silsila, you will also become part of that lineage. Now, this is him. This is Ustad Hassan Çelebi, and this is what a calligraphy class looks like in Istanbul. It's not like in college, in university, in school, where every student is sitting in their own desk. Over there, the only one who is sitting down is the teacher, and all the students are gathering around, looking and listening to what he's saying. So you will have your own personal time with him. He will correct your lesson in front of everyone. And it's very important to be there and to go through everyone else's corrections. So you have to look at all of the corrections of all the students and to listen to what all the explanation that he gives, because it's very useful for you. You learn a lot by just not only looking at your corrections, but at someone else's corrections, you know. And what's interesting is that in a calligraphy class in Istanbul, you will find all different levels, you know. So when I took this picture, I was a very beginner. It was probably my first or my second year of training, and you know, these two ladies in the left, we were basically at the same level, but you know, this guy here, he already was a calligrapher. He's got his ijaza a few years ago, and he's showing the teacher this calligraphic composition, which is, if you look at it, it's a beautiful composition. But you know, he makes sure that every Saturday he keeps going visiting the teacher. Here in this tradition, the relation between the student and the teacher is very important. The relation that happens is a very deep, powerful, and special relation. And you have to understand that the teaching in this tradition is given free of charge. The student never pays the teacher. It doesn't happen like that. And so the teaching is for free. So the only way that the student has to give that favor back is to commit, to dedicate yourself, to never lose the relation with the teacher. No matter if you've got your ijaza 20 years ago, you want to make sure that every piece that you're working in, you will always be showing it to your teacher, because there is always going to be a suggestion, a correction, half a hair here, you can do this, you can try that. And you know, so he was showing Ustad Hassan Çelebi this beautiful composition. The composition was perfect, but you know, he's still saying, yes, this is good, but here, look at this or look at that, the inclination of this here, you know. And these are things that only calligraphers can tell, you know. For the general public, that composition would be, yeah, perfect. But you know, teachers are always going to see things that you maybe not see, and so that's why it's important to keep showing them your work, you know. And also these other two persons here, like this one and this one, they were already calligraphy masters. They were already masters, but they make sure that every Saturday they keep going to visit the teacher. And look how they're not just hanging out there, and you know, they're really looking at what he's doing, listening what he's explaining. It's very important to never lose the relation with the teacher. It's very, very, very important. Yes, please.
So I'm just curious, like compositions like that, like are they original, or like do you reproduce it? or does it become like, okay, now that's yours now, in a way, like now that becomes known, that was your original composition, and then it gets replicated over time?
No, when you first start making calligraphy compositions, the first pieces that you have, it will be reproductions. Just in order to learn how a composition works, and to understand how it works, and have to understand how you build a composition. But at some point, you're gonna have to start creating your own compositions. So most of the compositions you see are original from that calligrapher. This piece was original from him. It wasn't a reproduction. He didn't copy it. It was his composition.
So everyone has the unique composition? Or
Everyone makes unique compositions.
so when you see like the calligraphy, you can see that's one is owned by...
There is always a signage. They are always signed. You have to be well trained in order to be able to recognize the right, because the shapes and the proportions are always going to be exactly the same. So the differences between one calligrapher and another calligrapher are very, if you are not super trained and if you don't know the style of each calligrapher and the hand of each calligrapher, you're not going to be able to see the differences. But yes, there are very, very subtle differences between calligraphers. Any other question? Yes. Salam alaikum. No, we preserve, and we all work with the classic styles, with the classic scripts, but because each personality is different, we have very, very subtle differences between of us. They are very, 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 but it's very, I mean, you will barely notice that, but it happens, it happens. It happens in the writing.
Curious to know how the master can detect the mistakes. Does the master use a tool, or is just...
No, the tool is the eye.
No, it's the eye.
It's his eyes, yes.
But it's like millimeters.
Yeah, no, less. It's less than millimeters. Yes, it's half a hair. It's half a hair. But that's why they are masters, and because they have developed and their entire life. They have dedicated their entire life. They've spent their entire life looking at calligraphy. So the level that they have to recognize and to see things in calligraphy, that's why they are masters.
Thank you.
This is just to show you that the teaching is always being done in person. Okay, so that we have to be very careful with this kind of things. That online calligraphy course in 6 months, get an ijaza in this script. Don't trust that, because that's or these tutorials online on how to do things in calligraphy. Just don't trust it. The learning is always, the online thing is not traditional. I understand that from COVID everything went online, and now you can whatever you want to learn, you can find. Even calligraphy, you will find calligraphy courses online. But just be careful with this. Don't trust it, and it's okay to just, if you have to travel in order to meet a teacher, it's okay to do it. Let's not lose that human. This is for the new generations. Let's not use the human thing between us. This is a picture to show you a little bit how the relation with the teacher is. So we have Hassan Çelebi, our teacher. Here he was with his teacher. This person was his teacher, was Hassan Çelebi teacher. His name was Hamid Aytak. And he was very, very young, and he was with his teacher. His teacher was one of the most prominent calligraphers, Ottoman calligraphers, and he was about to die. He was about to pass away. But his student was there with him, holding his hand. And as I said, it's very important to never lose the connection and the relation with the teacher. Up until this moment, until the time that one of the two passes away. That's the time where obviously the relation is going to end. But can you imagine the honor for a student to be able to be holding his teacher's hand when he's about to pass away? I think it's such a powerful image, and it's beautiful. And can you imagine holding the hand of one of your college teachers? But this is, but in this tradition, this is how it is. It's very important to preserve that relation. And then when Kamil passed away, he became the head of the calligraphers. He became the last person in the chain. And then, Ustad Hassan Çelebi started learning with him. Eventually, obviously, at some point, I don't think you can see it very clear, but he got very old, very, very old, and obviously he passed away. And then now today we have Hassan Çelebi, who's the last person in the chain. There is a formula that we use to sign a calligraphy piece. This is the signature here. This little line is the signature. And it says, Katabahu, in this case it says, Katabahu Ferhat min Talamidi Hassan Çelebi. It was written by Ferhat, one of the students of Hassan Çelebi, may God forgive them. So it's, again, you keep mentioning your teacher even when you sign a calligraphy piece, just to show him respect, and that's also a kind of a quality certificate. When you look at a calligraphy composition and you see that there's this line here, there is this signature, it means that the calligrapher is mentioning his teacher because they belong to you can always, if you know a little bit about calligraphy and you read the names, you will see who's the calligrapher, who's the teacher, and then you will know who's the teacher of that teacher and who's the teacher of that teacher. So we also kind of memorize and we learn the silsila and who's been the student of who and who's been the student of who, and it's very important.
Is that decoration around it? Is it part of what you do as calligrapher?
No, that's illumination. That's a different art. And so normally calligraphers would just focus on the calligraphy part, and they would work hand by hand with illuminators. But it's a totally different art. So as I said, every part of every letter has a very specific measurement, and there's this methodology that we use to measure. We use the nokta, which is the unity of measurement, to measure every stroke and every letter. And it has to be very precise. It's very, very precise. And this is basically what you learned. All the proportions, all the shapes, all the different possibilities. Okay, just let me show you one last image, and then I want to show you the materials and how we work with them. But this is...
I'm not sure.
It will go away by itself. This is an ijaza. This is an example of an ijaza. This is what an ijaza looks like. Okay, so as I said, the student has to reproduce a work, one of his teacher's work. This is what the student wrote, and then here, as you see, the teachers. This is where the teachers would write and would certificate that this person, with the help of God, has completed the learning process, and then from now on we give him the permission to start teaching and to start passing down the knowledge and producing his own calligraphic patterns.
I have a question.
Yes.
I saw in the last picture there is like something character also, like for example like this one, like this one there is like meme and then scene, for example, a small one, and the top one like something a lot like what's called small thing. This one, is it something that necessary or something?
You mean this meme?
Yeah, that's one, and then like ha, and then shin and the.
Yes, this is some in some of the letters you'll sometimes in this script, because this script is used to make very complex compositions. So sometimes under some letters you will find, I mean, if it's a meme, this just shows you that there is a meme here. This shows that there is a ha here. The sin shows that there is a shin. So it's kind of, it kind of helps you a little bit to read it. When it's this is easy to read, but when it's a complex composition, it's helpful to have these little letters.
Is it a rule or just like?
No, it's not. It's not a rule for that. No. Yeah. All right. Let me show you the materials. Okay. Okay. So now we are going to be using this. Okay, so the materials that we use are very basic. This is our main tool, the qalam. This is a reed pen, and this is bamboo, you see. But this is all we use. We don't use markers, we don't use pencils, we don't use brushes, we don't use any digital tool. We use qalams, reeds, and bamboos, and ink and paper, and that's pretty much it. You see, there's the reed is a little different from the bamboo. It's the reed it's thinner, so you can have a smaller nib if you want to write a smaller script. The bamboo, since it's a little wider, it will allow you to have a wider nib. This is to write bigger letters, and if you even want to go bigger, you can use these pens, or these ones, and it goes on and on. To show you how we cut and how we open the pen. So for these reeds would have two ends, like this one. It would be the same in this side. So first you want to open the qalam. We say we open the qalam because whenever we open a qalam, we open a door to a whole new world of possibilities that you can write with that qalam. So first it would be making this deep cut in order to open, and then here you have to be very careful. You want to cut the nib as thin as possible. There is always this cut here. This is the nail of the qalam. And when it's thin enough, we will make this cut here. So there is always going to be a little bit of an angle in the nib. And then now you can start cutting from the sides, but here is where you have to really be careful. if you cut one hair, I don't know if you can see this, one hair from this side, you have to cut another hair from this side. So here you have to literally go hair by hair. You see? One from this side, one from this side, in order to keep a balance. It's very important to have a balance in the nib. One hair from here, one hair from here, and you can keep cutting until you get the width that you want to use. Something which is very interesting and that really fascinated me is that all these savings that you get whenever you open a kalam or when you sharpen the kalam, you don't throw them. You don't put it in the garbage, in the trash. You don't mix it with garbage. The tradition says that the calligrapher has to keep all his savings or her savings since the day that he starts learning calligraphy until the day that he dies. So you would spend your entire life keeping all these savings in a box or in a particular place. But it's important not to. It's like you have to understand that the qalam is the most sacred tool for a calligrapher, and we have Surah Al-Qalam in the Quran, right? Nun wal qalami wa ma yasturun. So it's mentioned in the Quran. So it's not a Sharpie, it's not a pen, it's not a pencil, it's something else. It's something that we really have to respect and take care of. And also the relation in between the qalam and the calligraphy is very intimate. It's a very tight relation that happens. And this is the tool that we use to write the Quran. This is the tool that we use to write the names of Allah and all of this. And it's so we don't want to put it in the trash and mix it with the rest of the chicken that we had for dinner last night. And it's better to keep it in a separate spot. And then so you'll end up having when the calligrapher passes away, you will end up having a huge box of savings. But then it's the family who will collect all the savings and they will burn it. And with that, they will boil the water that they will use to wash the body of the calligrapher when he's passed away. So that's the purpose of also keeping the savings. Then we use ink and we use paper, and that's it. It's as basic as that. Here you will see that there is something in the ink pot. This is called lika in Turkish. It's silk fibers that we put inside. It's very helpful and it's very important to have it. It helps to regulate the amount of ink that you take with a qalam. If you put the qalam directly into the liquid and then you put it in the paper, the first thing that you will have is a drop of ink, right? But this controls the amount of ink that you take. You don't take that much ink, so you're going to be able to put it on the paper and make a clean stroke. This is the black ink, the black ink. It was made by soot, gum arabic, and rainwater. Soot. You know what soot is? From the oil lamps, the smoke that comes out from the oil lamps. Back in the days there was no electricity, right? So the mosques were illuminated with oil lamps. And in Istanbul, I don't know if you've been in Istanbul, there's a mosque. It's called Süleymaniye Mosque. You know that place, right? That mosque was designed by the most prolific Ottoman architect. His name was Mimar Sinan, and he designed the windows of the mosque so in a way that the air was coming in the mosque. It was making a spiral, and it was taking all the smoke from all the oil lamps to a very tiny room that he built right on top of the mosque, so that the air itself was collecting the smoke into that room. So once a year, calligraphers would go up to that room. They will scratch all the soot pasted in the walls, and they will mix it with gum arabic and rainwater, and they will produce their own inks. And then they would write Qurans that they would give back to the mosque as a sadaqah, and so it's what would come out of the mosque in a smoke way, would come back in a beautiful handwritten Quran, and it will stay there forever. And rainwater, because rain is rahmatullah, and it was the most pure and clean water that they could use. Nowadays, as well as rainwater, we use distilled water or rose water, but we try to avoid water from the sink, tap water, because we don't really know where this water is coming from or where it's passing through. And also, we know that the water that we get nowadays from the sink, it has what? Fluoride, chloride, calcium, many different things that we don't know how these things are going to affect the ink or the paper in 500 years. So we have 1,000 years old manuscripts where the ink is still there, where the paper is intact, and we know the recipe. It's soot, gamma arabic, and water. But if we add chloride or fluoride or something else, we don't know what's going to happen in 600 years. So in order to be safe, that's why we use this water. Any question?
All right, we have a question online, Ustad. Maybe you answered this question already. What does it take to become a calligrapher? Are there special qualities, i.e. being artistic? Can one just learn with practice and hard work?
One just learn with practice and hard work, and that's all it takes. And all you need to become a calligrapher is to commit to the art and to the teachings that you get from your teachers. But there's no any specific, as we said at the beginning, there's no any specific requirement or artistic skill that you need to have in order to become a calligrapher.
Thank you. Other questions from the sisters or brother side? Just raise your hand. I'll come to them with the mic too. All right, you have another demo out there?
Yes, let me show you, because we don't have that much time. Let me show you a couple of letters, how we write and how we measure. How is this measuring system that we use? Okay, so as I said, the unity of measurement that we use is the nokta, the dot. And the dot itself, since it's the unity of measurement, it has its own proportion. So in calligraphy, it's all about angles and directions, and to make a nokta, you want to put your column in a 45 degrees angle, and then you want to pull down in this direction. This is 45 degrees angle. This is 90. It's very important to constantly have all the angles in mind. And what's a 45 degrees angle, what's a 70 degrees, what's 90 degrees is very, very important. So for example, starting with Alif, for the letters, we are going to use a 70 degrees, more or less 70 degrees angle. The Alif in this script, in the Thuluth script, you don't have to think about Alif as a straight line. In fact, in this script, there are basically no straight lines. There are no straight strokes. Everything has a little bit of a curve here and there. And the Alif, it has two different parts, as you can see here. This is what we call the head of the Alif, and this is what we call the body. Okay, it's made in two different strokes, and the Alif has two different curves. One curve comes in this direction, another curve comes in this direction. It's like an S motion that happens in the body. So, starting with the head, we would have this, and then the body to here. This is Alif. Now, if we have a straight line here and another straight line here, now you see that there is this space here and this space here, right? Because we have, again, one curve in this direction, one curve in this direction. More or less in the middle of the letter, you change the direction of these curves, but it's like a, as I said, a very soft S motion. It's not a straight line. And then now to measure the Alif, we want to have 8 noctas. Five, 6, 7, 8. Important to know that first, this is how we learn. We first make the letter and then we put the noctas to check. So we would never put the noctas before as a reference. The noctas are not a reference that we have. The noctas is the way that we have to check if what we are doing is too long, too short, too deep, too whatever it is, right? But first is always the letter and then the noctas.
How long did it take to become master in one alif?
You don't become master in one alif. You become a master in the entire thing, or you don't. But you don't. Questions?
You showed the curriculum, the book, and you learn line by line in the lesson. For your first lesson, how long did that take you?
It took us several months. I don't remember, but I would say that a good 6, 7 months, something like that. Yeah. You know Hassan Çelebi, Ustad Hassan Çelebi, when you read his biography, he says that he spent the first 2 years of his career writing the Rabbi Yasir Dua. 2 years. And you know, his teacher was very, he was kind of giving him a little bit of hard times because he wouldn't even talk to him too much, and he would say every week, no, this is wrong, 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 go home and repeat. Next week the same thing, this is wrong, wrong, wrong. He would even barely look at him. This is wrong, wrong, go home and repeat. And you know, after 2 years, Ustad Hassan Çelebi was like, Ustad, I think I'll be quitting because I don't think I'm good enough to keep on learning this art because I've been writing the same thing for 2 years and I think I'm not good enough. And then his teacher was, okay, no, don't worry, man. You're looking great. You're doing great. You're very good at it. Don't worry. I was just testing you. I was just testing your patience. It's kind of a filter that they put to see if the student is going to commit, is going to be serious enough or not. So it was just all right, let's see, for example, the ba. Now, again, the ba, in this script, to write the same letters, sometimes you have different options. So, for example, for ba, ta or tha, okay, we have this shape, but we also have this one. You can use both shapes. For jim, ha, or ha, we have this shape and we have this shape. Ra, we have this shape, this shape, this shape. 3 different shapes for Ra. So that makes even more, that gives you even more possibilities for everything. Like when you connect one letter to another letter, it even gives you more possibilities that you can write. But let's see this first ba. Now it's again it's the same. This is what we would say the the head of the ba, and this the body. Now it's a horizontal letter. It goes in the First the head. So this would be the ba. You can always stop. You know, there are specific places that you can always stop, take more ink, and continue. Okay. So the alif, for example, can also be done in two different. The body of the alif can also be done in two different strokes. And to measure the ba, we want to have one nokta measuring the depth of the body. Then we want to have 6 noktas inside. Six. The head is going to have 1.5. It's always going to be half a nokta here. And there is 1 nokta from this corner to measure how tall is the body. Look how if we have a straight line from here to here, there is a little bit of a space here as well, because this stroke is not totally straight. It has a little bit of a curve. And then if we have that straight line from here to here, this space is bigger because this curve here at the end is also bigger, it's more rounded. Here at the end you want to have this circle. Also look how, if this is the middle of the letter, the lowest point has to be right here. So you can divide it in 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts, and 3/4 ahead you'll have the lowest point.
We have questions? Yeah.
So when you look at a more complex composition, do you have the drafts first?
Many.
Okay, but then otherwise it's a single. You know, you don't kind of like color it. You know.
No, it's the execution of the last piece is like what you've seen, what you are seeing here. Okay. But in order to be able to write it properly as you want, and everything has to be in its right place, there are months of sketching, trying, practicing, trying different things, going through the same letters and words over and over and over again for hundreds and thousands of times that you want to, you know, in order to train your hand. So when you write the final piece, the execution is like that, and you don't have any major mistake that you have to start over again, because there is no way to erase, there is no way to, you know, if you have a big mistake, you just have to start over again.
Anything from the sister side here?
So for this measurement, is this for the Sulus script?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so different script have different measurement?
Absolutely, yes.
So prior to studying in Istanbul, you already knew how to measure this, because I see your curriculum already started with the verse. So did you learn practice at Istanbul, or do you learn it in Spain first?
No, no, no. I learned it in Istanbul.
So basically, you directly go to Istanbul with zero knowledge of calligraphy?
Yeah. Zero knowledge.
Oh, and then how does the, I don't know, I feel like Arabic calligraphy is quite, I mean, a lot of people learn it, probably in academy or whatever, but it seems like the way you learn was very, in terms of traditional and in a small classroom. So I'm just...
Well, sometimes there are many students coming to the class. Huh? Sometimes it depends also who's the teacher, who's the master. But sometimes there will be 30, 40 people in a class, attending a class and following that teacher. So and sometimes it's very intimate. It's just you and your teacher and maybe two other people. Sometimes there's many people.
Just want to understand the setting is, yeah, it's my way.
You never know. You never know how many people is going to be each day in the class. Sometimes you even work a lot during the entire week. You spend many hours every single day practicing the lesson that you want to show it to your teacher next weekend or the next class. And you go to the class and the teacher wouldn't even show up that week. And you have to wait until the next week. But that's part of a training as well. You're going to have to be dealing with so many different things, even with the frustration of saying, okay, I've been working an entire week so hard for so many hours to show it to my teacher, and he's not even here today, so I'm going to have to wait another week. But this is part of a training and part of a process.
So in this case, if you make a mistake, you cannot erase it, so you need to start over again. Oh my God.
Yeah, the learning is basically by repetition and repetition. So you will be writing the exactly same thing thousands of times, And if you make a mistake, it's okay. Start over again. You know, it's fine. It's fine. So, but what you want is to be able to, at some point, be able to, in a white blank space, you're gonna make an alif, a ba, jim, or whatever you want to do, respecting all the shapes, respecting all the proportions, and you know.
You told us how you save the shavings. What do you do with all those, original copies of the ones that are not?
I keep them as well. I keep them. I don't. Yeah.
Room in a room.
I have piles of papers. Yeah. I mean, I have many different folders, and every year I put.
So I know in this area, you make your own paper, I think.
Yes.
And so when do you decide you're confident enough to use the final paper, or do you use the same paper through the whole
No,
thing?
no. That's a very good question. The paper that we use for a final calligraphy piece, it's a very specific paper, and it has a very specific treatment. And it's a paper that it's a little expensive. So for the practice, the sketches, and all of this, we use this white glossy paper, which is. But yes, the paper for the calligraphy piece is different. It has it's named ahar paper. Ahar is a mixture of white egg and alum, and it's a whole process that you have to go through to burnish and this and that. But when you've finished preparing the paper, you have to at least wait at least 1 year until you can use that paper. But 1 year is the minimum. You will find teachers that will say, no, 1 year that paper is not ready yet, and wait just 10 years, something like that. Which, I mean, the older the paper is, the better it is to write calligraphy. And so, when do you feel that you can jump into that paper? Well, after several months of practicing that composition, and when you see that, okay, it's kind of a feeling that that you get, okay, it's time to do it. I'm not making any mistake. I'm writing the same thing many different times, and every time is the same. So I'm now ready to. But that requires a lot of time and a lot of practicing.
Right. Any more questions? Oh, we have one more question right here.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, when you were demoing, you were writing the alif and the ba, the speed at which you were writing it was very deliberate, very, very careful. Is that the typical speed that you would go?
It is.
Okay.
Yes. It is. It is. You wouldn't believe how slow calligraphers write. Very slow. It's very slow. Think that you have to be, as I said, in a blank, wide portion of paper. You have to be thinking about the measurements, the angle of inclination, the length, the depth. There's so many things you have to be kind of measuring at the same time when you're making the stroke. At the same time, you're kind of measuring. You're feeling the space that you're using. So if you make a stroke like very fast, you're not going to be able to do it. So that's why we go very slow.
So one question I had is, we have National Poetry Month. We have different things to get the different arts into the general population. Where is calligraphy in that? Do we have something to bring it into the general awareness of the community? Because it feels like a dying and a lost art.
But what do you mean? I mean,
how do we popularize calligraphy as an art rather than it just being kind of a very specialized group, a cohort that kind of works on it? Bring it to the masses, in other words.
It's not that easy to bring it to the masses. I try to expose people to this art and to this tradition, but I think it's always been like that. It's not an art for the masses. It's an art for just a few people. So yeah, I think it's the way it is.
I think that's a sign. We should call it a night.
I like your coat. Mashallah. All right, thank you so much for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure having you. Tomorrow we're having classes here from 10 to 4. If some of you want to join, you're more than welcome. And yeah, it's going to be a good 6 hours and then you're going to be practicing. I'll give you the materials. You can take them home, but you will get the time to go through it and try yourself and practice and have the experience of what is. You want to come?
Girl, I'm so
All right, very good. All right, salam alaikum everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.